What am I talking about? Battle traits. Battle traits. With the release of Briar and Bone, Games Workshop has given us new rules to use for every single one of our armies. Totally out of left field. I didn't know it was coming. No one else knew it was coming, but they put it in that book, and we are going to talk about them. Of course, the thing I'm talking about is battle traits. They are effectively faction passives. Apparently, I can see the future. Faction passives are here. These are additional rules that your warbands have access to if they are effectively pure, so they all share the same faction rune mark, or alternatively, you'll get bonus rules depending on the Grand Alliance that you have. Some of them are really interesting. Some really gives you options on how to build your warbands and really gives you a compelling argument to build in a single faction way. I'll leave it to all the other content creators to just go through them, do a man reads book style thing. That's not what we're going to do today. Instead, I'm going to give you the link to them. They are up there. You'll be able to see them over in Warcry. I'll also put the links down below for you. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the biggest winners from the battle trait system, and I'm going to take a look specifically at certain warbands to see which ones really benefit from these rules, and at least from a competitive standpoint, which you should be looking at to build towards when building your warbands. But yeah, without further ado, let's check it out. Let's go looking at battle traits. So before I begin, I wanted to go a little bit into how battle traits work. At the beginning of the game, if every single one of your fighters shares a faction rune mark, you get access to that faction's battle trait. If they don't, let's say you brought in allies, let's say you brought in thralls, you get access to the Grand Alliance battle traits. Now, battle traits themselves, they're just passive abilities that are always on. You have the ability, it'll tell you exactly how to use it and when to use it. So it's very simple. I do want to give a word about tournament legality for these. The wording in the Briar and Bone book is exactly the same as the wording that we had for Divine Blessings. It'll basically be down to your tournament organizer if they want to use them for their events. So be sure to check to make sure that these rules are being in use. Talking about the battle traits themselves, personally, the power scaling between them I find to be extremely wide. There are some very good ones, and there are some, I don't want to say not so good ones, but yeah, there are some that just aren't all that good at all. And it's a bit strange how the good battle traits have been offered out. It seems like the very good battle traits have been given to warbands that can already put forward very solid and very legitimate monofaction lists, which kind of means that they just get buffs for free. I would have thought that the stronger battle traits would have gone to warbands like Askagan Trueblades, for example, or Pyregeist. Those warbands that are on the weaker side of things, as something to encourage players to build pure mono factions without just having to go, okay, well, here's all of my Bladeborn, here's all of my allies, and that's really what I'm playing, not the faction itself. So I really like the idea. I've been calling for faction passes for a long time. It's just I think that the execution has been lacking. The big winners here, I've basically got three sections that we're going to be looking at. Those factions that I've already talked about, so the ones that can put together solid warbands wholly within their faction, we got Ironjaws, Sylvaneth, Nighthaunt, Cities of Sigmar. The trait needs to get errated because at the moment it just doesn't work, but if it does, cities can put together a very good list with their battle traits. Quest of Soulsworn, Beast of Chaos, and Seraphon. Then we have factions whose trait is strong enough that I feel like it would be a good toss-up between bringing a mono list and bringing in allies just from the strength of the battle trait alone. And for that, we're talking about Head Knights of Slaanesh, Cyberites, Skaven, Ogres, Stormcast Eternals, Iron Golems, and Flesh Eater Courts. And finally, very quickly, there are factions with no battle traits. So you can kind of tell when these rules were written. They would have had to be written over a year ago for this to be the case. So Cities of Sigmar, we're talking about the new ones, not the old one that we're going to be referring to here. The Black Talons, Order of Azir, and Corvus Cabal, their battle trait just needs an errata anyway, because it mentions falling and all of this stuff that was fixed in the last FAQ. They fixed it for the Gore Chosen of Drom. But yeah, they would need to put an errata to that in order to make that battle trait actually useful and something that Corvus Cabal would want to use. So I said we're going to take a very specific look. We're going to start here with Ironjaws. I think that Ironjaws are the biggest of the big winners in the battle trait system. They've got enough mess in. So every time an enemy fighter makes a wait action, each player who's warband that has this battle trait, so basically you, can pick one friendly fighter. That fighter makes a bonus move action up to 3 inches. Ironjaws were already very good against hordes because they have Umessin, effectively turning off all of those really cheap fighters when we're talking about objective missions. This takes that I don't want to say a step further, it takes it leaps and bounds further for Iron Jaws. If you're playing your average Iron Jaw list, let's say 7-man or an 8-man warband, and you're playing against something like 10 or 11 fighters, normally what you would see is your opponent would try and wait you out, force all the Iron Jaws to make all of their moves, and then you can move your warband and do your thing. This totally stops that because every time you use that wait action, one of your opponent's Iron Jaws are going to be moving 3. Their base movement is 3 for most of their guys, if we're not talking about the pigs. So effectively, this reads, choose a guy, get an extra move action. That is absolutely huge. It completely removes weight from the game plan of any of your opponents if you are playing Iron Jaws. It's very powerful. Some people don't think it's that strong. You can just go, oh, well, instead of waiting, you just make your move. But waiting is a legitimate part of the game, and it's effectively an action that you use to gain tempo, right? You use it to see what your opponent's doing and then move into doing all of your things. If you remove that, suddenly the ball is in the Iron Jaws court. Their basic guys can already out-brawl most basic chaff in the game. Then big beaters can do very well. They have the high damage. You've got things like the Mega Boss that people say, okay, the problem with the Mega Boss is like its base is huge and it can't get anywhere quickly. Well, now it can. 1 weight, 2 weights, suddenly your Mega Boss is getting 1 or 2 extra movement actions. So Iron Jaws, big winner. They are fantastic. Second winner, I think, are Sylvaneth. They have Spirit Pathways. It effectively allows one friendly fighter once per battle to use the Walk the Spirit Paths ability. Walk the Spirit Paths is Sylvaneth's teleport, so they're able to remove one of their fighters from the battlefield and put it anywhere else. They don't need to use dice. What can you do with this? Kernoth Hunters. You can teleport Kernoth Hunters all over the place. If you wanted to do it turn 1 to mess up your opponent's backlines, you can do that. If you wanted to wait until later on in the game, you could use it to go get objectives, to go hit backline wizards. There's a lot of versatility there. Sylvaneth were already putting forward very solid mono-faction warbands. We were seeing things like triple Kernoth Hunters and a bunch of guys. This just gives them effectively a free triple once per game that they can use on anybody. It's very good. I really like it. Nighthaunt. Excellent. Wave of Terror. +1 strength if you make a move action this activation. So, if we're talking about things like the Ruler of the Blade, who has a free move action on a double, it gets to use its free move action and then swing a strength 6. If we're talking about things like the Hellwraith, which I really like and I've been playing a lot of, you give it that strength boost, it gets to run in there, gets +1 strength, so it will go to strength 5. You can use a triple, use Frightful Touch, get all hits equals crits. It is an excellent battle trait to use. And Nighthaunt, they kind of have everything internally. The only thing I think they are missing is a big chunky brawler. You can kind of approximate that with the Knight of Shrouds, but I think the Wave of Terror battle trait really makes up for that. I've got Spirit Hosts up here. When they charge just by themselves, they're going to be going 6-4-1-3. That extra point of strength really reduces the damage that they'll be taking thanks to counter. And if you use Frightful Touch, greatly increases the chances of you actually hitting with your attacks. I mentioned Cities of Sigmar here. I said they need to be errated. The reason for that is because that Cities of Sigmar rune mark is the old one, and it does not refer to the 3 new Cities of Sigmar factions we have today. If they errated it and all of the Cities of Sigmar factions had access to this, I think it would be a very strong trait for them, especially considering that cities, they're really encouraged just to build within their own faction. They've got all of that internal synergy, and they have all of those abilities that help to buff each other, and the Dawnbringer Zealots ability really just adds to that. They like to use a lot of their reaction anyway to counter and do damage back, and what this is going to do at the end of the battle round, you're going to pick a friendly fighter, you're going to heal him for D3 damage, +1 if they're within 3 inches of an objective, carrying treasure, or within an obstacle. So it pushes out the survivability of your Steel Helms, pushes out the survivability of your Banner Bearer, your Ogre, whatever you like. It really pushes it out. So that's why I think it's basically just a free buff for Cities of Sigmar, as long as it gets errated. Let's talk about Questor Soulsworn. They have the Heroes Without Limits ability. Fighters with this battle trait can use multiple abilities each activation. Fighters can use the same ability more than once, can use multiple abilities that would only be able to use one, and where abilities grant bonus actions, such abilities use one at a time until they're fully resolved until you do another one. This is kind of crazy. All of the basic abilities in the game stack, rush stacks, onslaught stacks. If you got a couple of doubles, you can go onslaught, get +2 attacks for each of your attack actions. If you need to get somewhere quickly, you can go rush to go +2 movement for each of your movement actions, pushing them up to movement 6. They have the Thundering Strides double, so you can pick another friendly fighter within 6 inches, make a bonus move action. You can potentially use that multiple times from one guy. They've got Force of the Thunderbolt, which is finish a move action within 1 inch of 2 or more enemy fighters to make a bonus attack action. They get to combo this with other abilities now, so you could combo that with Onslaught. Use Onslaught first, use your move action, use Force of the Thunderbolt, get a free attack action with +1 attack, and then get to attack with +1 attack. There are a lot of options for this. We've seen already that there are some players who have had really good success with pure Quest or Soulsworn warbands. This, I think, only serves to push that power. And in the post-April 2024 format, we saw the errata go in. We saw those points updates go in. Questors should have a little bit of an easier time because warbands are generally getting smaller. And this really helps ramp up their action economy and action efficiency during games. Beastmen, Beast of Chaos, get Beastman Ambush. After deployment, you pick a friendly fighter from each battle group that's on the battlefield, remove them from the battlefield, and at the starts of round 2, 3, or 4, you can choose to place one of those fighters on the battlefield, more than 6 from an enemy fighter, and wholly within 3 of one of the battlefield edges. Now, I've got the Doom Ball here because you can do Surprise Doom Ball. If the Doom Ball is on the battlefield on turn 1, you can remove it, beginning of round 2, put it within 3 inches of any battlefield edge, have it in range to charge something, have it in range to do a lot of disruption. It's very similar to the Sylvaneth ability that we talked about already. So that's why I think it's really good. Beast of Chaos, they kind of have everything internally to be able to put together very solid mono-faction lists. So that's why I think they are a real winner here. Something you might also be able to do is use it on your Great British Shaman. The Great British Shaman has Devolve on a double. You can teleport the Great British Shaman into your opponent's back lines, pull people off of objectives. The opportunities for this are pretty wide, and we'll be really happy with this one. Seraphon, again, can put together very good mono-faction warbands. You pick Starborn or Coalesced to gain the corresponding battle trait below. Coalesced, this is basically for your Kroxigor and for your Saurus warriors. They get +1 to the value of Tearing Bite. That's great. Well, we should be using Tearing Bite anyway. Getting +1 to that really helps ramp that damage. Or you can make Starborn, so fighters with this battle trait can make Starborn reaction when they're targeted by melee and ranged attack actions. As a reminder, Starborn allows you to turn up to 2 crits into hits, but only for melee attack actions. This will allow you to do that for melee and ranged. The fact that you get to choose at the beginning of the battle which option you're going to use allows you to tailor it to your opponent's lists. If they're bringing something like this Slan Starmaster or Pop or something really strong with ranged attacks, you might want to take the Starborn upgrade, but any other time, just take Coalesced and Tearing Bite your opponent into the ground. Right, guys, I'm almost there. We hit 2,500 subs. That's fantastic. This year, I want to hit 3K. That's my goal for this year, 3,000 subs. So really, if you like the kind of stuff that I'm putting out, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. We can see those numbers going up, and together we will get there. Next up, we are going to be talking about factions who it's really worthwhile for you to look into battle traits as a valid alternate playstyle instead of just bringing in allies. And number 1 on the list for me is Hedonites of Slaanesh Cyberites. They've got Pain-Fueled Rapture. After they're allocated 1 or more damage points by an attack action or reaction, you get to choose that fighter to enter a Pain-Fueled Rapture. If they do, you allocate 3 damage points to that friendly fighter, and they get +2 attacks to the next attack action made by this fighter in this battle round. If they have not activated yet and they take damage, you can take a further 3 damage, get +2 attack the next time you attack. Or if they attack and they fight, they take damage thanks to something like counter. On your next attack action, you'll get +2 attacks. Why is this good? Well, Cyberites are actually fine. They're pretty good as they are, but they're somewhat lacking in the damage department. This helps that immensely. But the main thing that we're going to be looking at here is the Lord of Hubris. The Lord of Hubris has his ability, You First, I Insist. It's on a double. You pick a visible enemy fighter within 1 inch. That enemy fighter makes a bonus attack action targeting this fighter, and then in return, the Lord of Hubris gets +2 attacks and +2 strength, and you add 3 to damage points by each critical hit from melee attack actions that target that fighter. So the Lord of Hubris, he can use this double, get attacked, go into a Pain-Fueled Rapture, go to 6 attacks. From the double, he gets another 2 attacks, so he goes to 8 attacks, and strength 6, doing 2 6 damage profile. That's kind of wild, kind of crazy. I really like it. If you're playing against Cyberites, watch out for that Lord of Hubris. He's going to hit you like a truck. Next up, we have Skaven. At the end of battle rounds 2 and 3, pick a friendly fighter with this battle trait taken down with a points cost of 70 or less. So we're basically only really looking at clan rats and giant rats here. And at the start of the next battle round, you can place that fighter on a platform or on the battlefield floor, more than 6 from each enemy fighter, objective, and treasure token, and within 3 of 1 or more battlefield edges. So it's a resurrect, and basically get to bring back one guy as long as they're cheap enough that died. We know that's very strong anyway. We know that Skaven can put together some decent warbands. This really helps them just push out that economy even further, and it turns those kind of 7-man warbands into effectively 9-man warbands. So Skaven are really good. When you're building your list, if you're just looking to build Skaven, put a couple of clan rats in there and you can use this ability. For ogres, their brute or agile room-marked fighters get the following action, and that action is going to be Devour Corpse. You pick an enemy fighter that's been taken down, roll a dice. Remove the number of damage points from this fighter equal to the roll. An enemy fighter cannot be picked as a target of this action more than once per battle. So it's an action that you have to take, which you're going to be giving up your move, or you're going to be giving up one of your attacks or your weight. But it's just pick any enemy fighter that's been taken down. It doesn't have a range on it. It doesn't have tokens. It doesn't have anything. So you kill an enemy guy, and then all of your ogres get access to this action to heal a bunch of wounds. You can't eat the same guy twice, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. Ogres have the strength in their main fighters, and they have the numbers through their Noblars. So yeah, I think the more tribes is a strong one. Moving on to Stormcast Eternals, when they have Scions of the Storm. After deployment, you pick a friendly fighter with this battle trait. If that fighter's on the battlefield, you remove it, and then start the second battle round onwards, starting with the attacker. Place that fighter on the battlefield more than 5 from each enemy fighter and 3. So it's a teleport, but it does allow you to use fighters that aren't on the battlefield and effectively place them where you want. It is worth noting you have to be more than 5 from each enemy fighter, so something like this Annihilated Grandhammer might not necessarily be able to attack. If you've got any of those movement 4 Stormcast between ranged weapons, they'll be able to deploy, move, attack, and they'll be able to do their thing. Iron Golems are very simply able to, every turn, make the value of one of their doubles, triples, or quads a 6. This is real powerful. If you roll your quad, you get Rampage. Doesn't matter what the quad is, make it a 6. You get a 6-move Rampage. If you roll a triple and you want to do Living Battering Ram, you can make that a 666. So you'll do your move action, do 6 damage to your opponent. Spine Crushing Blow, again, on a double, get to add +6 to that fighter's strength. And finally, they've got their Whirlwind of Death, a number of damage points equal to the value of this ability to all enemy fighters within 3 inches. You make your quad a quad 6, you run into a big lump of guys, do 6 damage to everyone. It's great. It's a very good passive to have. It works every turn. Iron Golems already, they were doing real good things. I put them as one of the best warbands to play this edition. So yeah, it only goes up for there for these guys. And finally, we're going to look at Flesh Eater Courts. They have the Former Lance battle trait. We're going to add 1 to the movement characteristics of all friendly fighters that within 1 inch of 2 or more friendly fighters at the start of their activation. And you add 1 to the strength characteristic for a similar thing. If you have blocks of 3 ghouls running around the place, they'll get +1 move and they'll get +1 attack. I think this is a very interesting one to play around. I don't know how much use it will get outside of turn 1 when all your guys are really close together and you can get those bonus move actions. That being said, if we look at the Bladeborn, the Skinnerkin, they do have a double get out of my larder. So if your Skinnerkin are together, they can use a double, get those bonus moves with the +1 movement, and then the next Skinnerkin can activate, get another 2 bonus moves with the +1 movement. So yeah, I think there's something there. I don't know if it's going to be a massively powerful ability to use, or like I said, if it's just going to be a turn 1 thing. I do definitely think that for someone who wants to look into Flesh Eater Courts and really take the time to try and build that mono warband, I think they've got all the tools in there. They've got the Vargulf, they've got the cheap guys, they've got the Skinnerkin for some extra action economy, they've got some middling dudes with damage in there, they've got disruption. I think that they could be pretty good. Okay, and that is it from me for today, talking about the new battle traits. Like I said, I'm going to put the links down in the description below to Warcry. You can go check them out yourself. You can see if your favorite faction has got a good trait and if there's something that you can build around. As always, if you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe. 3K subs this year, that's what we are aiming for. Also, please let me know down in the comment section below what you think about the new battle trait system. If you have any that you think could be extremely strong, if you've got any cool builds that really help utilize the battle trait system, I'd love to hear that and we can have a good talk about it. But anyway, yeah, thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Itan, this has been Musings, and we will see you next time.